All right, I'm here, finally getting to your questions. It is 2:23 in the a.m. Got everyone quiet, asleep in the house. This is my last chance to get you a couple of answers until tomorrow, anyway. And I wanted to get you some answers as quickly as possible. So I think it's going to be quiet in the house. There's also a good chance that my dog is going to start a fight with my cat, and my cat will finish it. So you're probably going to hear it. So excuse the light off my glasses. I am blind. I got to see here. You sent me some video. We talked about the guy loading the 330-pound stone. Do I see anything wrong with his technique? Is it just a strength issue? Some kind of rep scheme or anything that will help? You've mostly been having him do some lifts with a 230-pound sandbag. But if we could maybe add in the 215-pound stone. The problem he has no issue at all doing the smaller stone. Well, I watched the video, and if I can get to the gym in the next few days, I will get you some photos and video of me picking up a stone. The biggest issue is that, when you stand over the stone, you've got to have your hands. I mean, it's got to be a straight line. It's got to be a straight line all the way down through the middle of that stone. And what I'm seeing is he's almost, you see the tear in my bicep right there, the nice little hole there. That's nice, huh? Isn't that pretty? He has his arm bent like this, and his hand is in the front half of the stone. His elbow is in the middle. So every time he goes to pick it up, that stone is being stuck right here and right here. And that's why that stone is rolling forward. Because this is the center. He's got it centered on the stone right here. This is what's picking it up, or somewhere here in the forearm. Okay, but the hand is the anchor point. Okay, so this is grabbing. The hand is the anchor. So you're picking it up and not a straight line. You're trying to stand up and pull it this way, which makes that stone want to roll this way. So what he has to do, what he absolutely has to do, is when he stands up over that stone, the hand has to go down the dead center of that stone. The hand has to go down the dead center. And that forearm has to be dead center too. And when you get that hand, it has to be straight. When you get that hand down there, tuck that hand this way. And then you can spread those fingers. Some people like the spread fingers. Some people like tucked under. I've done both. I have really strong fingers, and that helps me get the stone off the ground. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, somewhere around there. It's about as straight as my elbow gets anyway. But you want that arm straight. It needs to be, it's as straight as my arm's going to get. It needs to be pretty much a straight line from that hand, because you're going to grab the stone. If you're putting tacky, people all the time will say put tacky on your fingertips, or I'll tell people that anyway. It's an old thing. When people start missing a stone, I'm like, man, you're going to rip your bicep off. Go put tacky on your fingertips and have them look down at all the spots on their body where they've recently ripped off the skin trying to pick up a stone. And normally, they're missing some spots on their fingertips. They've got a spot right here on the palm, and then look at the forearm where it's being ripped and where it's being twisted. If that's being twisted on the forearm, then he's got his hand like this, and he's pulling, and that stone is sticking to the hand, but twisting, rolling out of the forearm and rolling forward. So have him put the tacky on the fingertips, put a little bit right here on that palm of that hand where it should be sticking, straight line, and then a little bit right here on the forearms where that arm should be sticking to the stone. Okay, and see if that doesn't help him get in the right spot. But if you look down and his arm is bent, his hand is in front of his elbows, tell him to stop. Get him to a good position first. That's a great way to tear a bicep. And it's, well, I was going to say it's even worse. You're going to miss the stone. I mean, if you load the stone and tear the bicep, at least you loaded the stone, but I've torn both biceps, so I'm not for sure if that's a good thing or not. That's the first thing. Get me more video of him loading the stone. Now, training with the sandbags, I think, helps build the stones, but I don't think it's going to fix that problem. It's so easy to grab the sandbag because you're often grabbing the sandbag out wide like this. And when you grab the sandbag really, really wide, the hands are pretty much almost always going to be in line with the elbows because you're going to be grabbing and squeezing in. Whereas with that stone, you're out in front and you're rowing and pulling this way. And that rowing elbows come down, hands stay in the same spot. You don't want to row. You want to sort of stiff leg deadlift the stone up. If that doesn't make sense, let me know immediately, okay? And we will get that taken care of, I promise, quickly. Head-to-head stone. Assuming you mean people facing each other, kind of like they've been doing at World's Strongest Man off and on the last couple of years. Is there a particular rep scheme I would use? If I get 15 seconds to return the stone, so I start off doing as many stone loads as possible before I take longer than 15 seconds. Then come back and do some more reps with the 175 stone. And then a couple of two reps with the 215 stone. Here's the thing, I think that's one of those things where people's biggest mistake is trying to replicate that event too much. And I think that's a bad thing. I think the idea is, but the thing is, you don't know who you're going up against. You know, I come from a fighting background, and, you know, what if I go up against somebody who's easy? How do I train for that? You know, what if I go up against somebody who's really good at you know, with punches, or really good with kicks, or somebody who's really, really fast, or somebody who stands still and can just lay you down with, you know, that perfect punch or kick or takedown or whatever. Because there's always that one guy who's good at doing something that you don't expect. So the point here is intensity. So you've got some things you can train. You're working on a clock. You're working on a 15-second clock. Does it benefit you any at all to load the stone in 6 seconds if you've got 15? The only benefit in loading the stone before the 15 seconds is up is if you make a mistake, and people tend to make really dumb mistakes. If you made the mistake early on in the 15 seconds, you get another chance. So what I would drill is no mistakes allowed. Don't, you know, remind them you don't have to rush. You've got time as long as you don't make any mistakes. And that's what that comes down to. When you're watching the guys at World's Strongest Man, and you're watching like Martins Lisi's on his YouTube channel do this in training, it's not the weight that they're using, because he, you know, progressively got heavier throughout his training cycle. They worked on a time cadence, but the biggest thing that they did was no mistakes allowed. You know, the pickups were perfect. Get it to the lap, reset, and load. You know, you don't want to, you know, take 3 or 4 breaths and get an easy pickup, an easy load, and oh my gosh, I forgot to fully extend it, didn't go over the bar, and now I've got a second to kill myself and load the stone. I miss it when I should have gotten 7 more reps. So I don't think there's anything magical. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going in 1 week and doing the 175 stone and just seeing how far you can go. There's nothing magical with going in with a 215 stone and seeing how far you can go. There's nothing wrong with taking that 330 stone. He needs to get it, and loading it to, I don't care, a 2-foot platform. I don't really care. And then going over and loading the 215 stone, and then loading the 175. If the competition weight is 185, you know, I don't know how many reps is he going to do with that. That's important. So if you have a general idea how many reps he can do with 185, you need to have a couple of weeks where you have him work off a 12-second time returning the stone. And then you can have him work off like a 17-second time returning the stone, 17, 18 second. And you play with intensity levels, and that's the big thing, intensity levels with the stones. You cannot go, you know, balls to the wall with Atlas stones every single week, because you will tear a bicep. Something will give out. You will tear a hamstring. Your body's just going to break down and get tired. That's probably the best way. Your body's going to break down and get tired. And I would say more people have torn biceps on stones that they would consider to be easy than they have stones that they would consider to be really, really hard. I think you could take that statement to the bank. Yaroslav Dimick, Poland, tore his bicep on a 230-pound stone at World's Strongest Man. Just reached down, picked it up, went to walk, and pop, there it goes. I tore mine on the 310. And I think I tore it again on the 365, but it was a joke. I mean, I was already fully extended and just pulled back at the right time, and my bicep tore. I saw Brian Benzel had a pop on his the other day on Facebook. He posted a video, and I mean, he was just flying with the stone. It was a joke. So I think it's important to control intensity and have weeks where we say, okay, we're going to go until you think you are at a 7 or 8 out of 10. And then, you need to have at least 1 week where he pushes to a 10, to where he understands where death is, and that he can still survive. And then he needs to have a lot of weeks where, do some 10-second returns, do some 12 and 13-second returns, do some 17 and 18-second returns, and use those extra seconds for verbal cues. Don't forget perfect hands. Breathe, get the air in, check your tachy, stand up, breathe in. Now relax. Don't forget, this is a cardio event, not just a strength. It's a cardio and technique event, not just a strength event. Learn, so, get him to where he can learn those verbal cues so that he can perform better with that extra time. That's my best thoughts. If that doesn't make sense, let me know, and I will come up with something even better. We got another question. Not for sure if you're doing another contest in October or not. I think you should, always. If there's one out there, go, and it even excites you a little bit, go do it. But if you don't, you'll be doing somewhat of an off season, where you would do just some kind of generic strongman training. You've seen other people before where they just pick six or 8 events, say 2 overhead, 2 loading, some implements for a medley, rotate them every 2 weeks. So week 1 might be a log, a medley with farmers and tires, sandbag over bar. Week 2 might be circus dumbbell, a medley with yoke and Husafel, Atlas stone loads, then repeat. But you've also seen it rotated with a lot of different implements. How do I go about structuring an off-season plan? As far as event training day designed to run about 2 hours. One of the most frustrating parts with me is I do everything almost goal-based. And there's a couple of different goal-based training thoughts. Like with my wife, my wife works a ridiculous amount of hours. And she normally, she'll work a 14 to 16 hour day and then come home, and then she will lift from 11 to 11:40 or 11:30 at night. She's in bed by 12 and she's up again by 6. But when she comes in, she'll say, okay, what do I need to do? And I'll say the goal today is let's just say 60 for 1 clean, 3 front squats, and 1 jerk. And as we work up to that, the goal today is to nail, 6 reps with 78 on a squat. The goal today is, that's one way of goal-based training, and I have a lot of luck with my wife and a few clients that way. I have more luck with clients that I see on a regular basis, and that I can see them when they come in the gym, and I know that they're tired or they're there. The other goal base is, I like people that can come in and say, my log press is here, My goal is to get it here. My deadlift is here. My goal is to get it here. My super yoke is here. My goal is to get it here. And that is very, very important for everyone. You must have a goal. You must know where you are and where you want to be and how much time you have to get there. The way you can divide all of that out. Now, strongman event work, for the most part, is getting better technically and then getting stronger in the gym. So if you have, I would take everyone that you're working with and you need to make an assessment. Private assessment, sending it home, write their name at the top of a piece of paper and make notes about each one of them. What is their weakest event? Or is their weakness, they're not mentally tough enough? Is it cardio? Is it base strength? Log press, Atlas stones, Viking press? What is their weakness and why, and how can we improve that? And start knocking off ways that you can improve that and focus on their weakest events and always make sure and keep their best events in there somewhere because they always need to have fun. They need to have a reason why they're coming back no matter what. Internet is completely gone. It's going to upset me when I go to upload these videos to you because I promised I would have it to you. And the internet is completely gone. Could have been the bomb that went off earlier. Connection error. I know. But I always think that every week needs to contain some kind of press. You need to pick something off the ground during your week. So if they haven't deadlifted during the week, and I believe that you mentioned that you expect that your clients have deadlifted during the week anyway, they should have to press something. They should have to load something. They should have to carry something, which tends to either be yoke or farmers. And there should be something which requires some kind of cardio capacity. And you could easily do super yoke farmer sandbag. And that covers carrying 3 events over, and it covers cardio. So it depends on if you want to structure it light or heavy. But if you have an assessment for each one of your athletes, and you can do some kind, if you're able to do some kind of press, any kind of press, but keep notes. If they just walk in the gym and press, by the time you come back to that press, by the time you come back to log, did they do a 3 rep max, a 5 rep max, a 1 rep max? Wasn't all out for 60 seconds? Did you do the AC/DC method where when the AC/DC song starts, you start pressing and you don't stop pressing until the song's over? You've got to find a way to make progress on that. I think it's where a lot of people fail with the conjugate method is they don't understand how to make progress. And the biggest way to make progress is not only know how to assess your strengths and weaknesses and make sure you're doing the right exercises, but to make sure that you're making progress and you're getting better every time you circle back to what you just did. So I do think you have the right idea. I do think you need to structure it better for each and every client. And if you take a notebook, I've got my notebook here for clients, and this thing is just, I don't know what you can see, but every single page is filled with notes. I went through my last page tonight with Ozzy and Bryson. You're going to see clients that have similar strengths, similar weaknesses, and that's going to help you lay out a plan for the next month or so. But you really can't go wrong. Make the assessment, and with the assessment, I think you're going to answer your own questions here. The core lifts, the ones that are always going to be in there, you never want to get too far away from doing an event. You never want to say, oh man, we haven't pressed an axle in 9 months. So, don't be afraid. This week's medley is going to be, a log axle dumbbell medley. And then whenever we're finished, whichever one of the 3 we were worst at, we're either going to do some incline, and you can do 1-arm incline dumbbell. You can do incline axle, super high incline axle. You can do incline log. Or you can have each one of them drop down to 75% of whatever their guesstimate training max is on that implement, and do 3 sets of 5, you know? And in those 15 reps, you might pick up something they're technically doing wrong. Or do they need more triceps? So you can tell them during the week, man, get out there and work your triceps by doing neutral grip dumbbell floor presses, really, really heavy, heavy sets of 5 to 10, really fry them to help build that log. If they're having problems getting back on the axle, or they're just weak when they dip down to press, have them do face pulls, but get them on some kind of rope. So when they're pulling in, they're pulling in, and they're going to do a face pull where they have to learn to pull back and high to get into that position and use the proper parts of their upper back to get into position. Same thing with that dumbbell. If you're like me and you have issues getting into that position, is it a mobility issue? The fact that I've don't have a tricep tendon, I've broken all my fingers and torn rotator cuffs over the years, or am I just weak and I don't have those muscles to hold everything back? Do I need to work on those face pulls? Do I need to do tape presses for triceps? So when you find out what they're bad at, give them that opportunity, that's 70 to 75% for 3 sets of 5. That's your opportunity as a coach to go in and assess them. It's what I do with all my athletes. If my athletes are watching this right now, they're like, that's why Clint's having me doing the 70 and 75% work. You're right. I'm making an assessment about what's going on so that way I can change things next week and figure out the best accessory exercise that's going to make you stronger. So I hope that makes some kind of sense. I really feel strange because I want to say that you have the answers and you definitely have the knowledge to put everything together. But I still think pen and paper, and I've got my pen in my pocket because if my 3-year-old autistic son sees an ink pen, he confiscates it. But pen and paper is the way to go with everything. And never be at the gym without a pen and paper. Every single athlete that you work with should have their name at the top of the page of one sheet of paper, and you should just be taking notes, every time you're there. And if you're not taking notes while it's happening, take notes as soon as you get home. Take notes as soon as you leave while it's fresh on your mind. And that's what I do with each and every client that I watch their videos. I sit here and I take notes over what I've seen on videos, what I asked them to do, what they told me they did, them explaining to me how things went, their videos of how things went, and then I start taking notes about what I saw and what we need to change in the short term and the long term to make them better. So I think that any coach, yourself included, that spends the time to do that with each and every athlete is going to end up being a great coach, and you're going to end up having athletes that the only reason they're not better is because they didn't put in the work, not because the coach didn't put in the work and the effort. So anyway, it is 2:46 in the a.m. I'm going to unplug this, try to get it plugged into the computer, and hopefully get this to you ready to go by tomorrow morning your time. So you have a great night. I'm going to bed. We'll talk again soon. Get me more questions.